Hey guys, welcome back. So yes, we are coming near the end of our video series for the build of our standard gauge layout. We're almost there. I want to be done by the end of May. Didn't quite make it because of one little hiccup that occurred that we'll need to take care of in the next video. But there will only be 2 more videos left in this series, and that will be the end. We'll be done with our standard gauge build. Now, we will have some more videos for standard gauge trains as we get new engines and things like that, but for the most part, that's going to be it for the build series. And yeah, so today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to basically go around the whole layout here, and we're going to look at all the scenes we created. We'll check everything out so you get an idea of what it looks like. And then the next video will be the last build portion where we have to do something. I'm not going to tell you right now, but you'll see when we get to that. And then the final video will be all 3 of these loops running trains simultaneously. And so we'll go through all that, and you'll get the final running session. So there won't be any trains running today, sorry, but we will get to that point. Like I said, there's only 2 more videos after this one, and that'll be the end of the build series. So yeah, so let's jump right into this and check out the layout and what we've done for all the little scenes and everything around the whole platform here. All right, now that we have the main track done, we're going to start on the actual sort of little scenes, right? The buildings and things like that. So I have all my buildings out, and I'm going to start placing them on the layout where they kind of fit. And this is one of them. This is the Lionel Irvington factory and tin plate that Lionel made. It's actually made for O scale, but it actually fits perfect on the standard gauge layouts. And I just put a couple of things, right? I put a couple of street lamps, goosenecks in the front here. I've got some tall lamps in the back right here. The building itself is lighted, but you can see I started down here on the sort of the roadway. And what I'm using for the roadway is this stuff right here, which is, it's Woodland Scenic's track bed. It comes in these, what they call super sheets, which are about 12 by 24, so 1 by 2 foot sheets that you can cut. They also come in 6 by 24, so you can get thinner sheets too, not as wide, that you can use for, they're perfect for roads on O scale. A little bit too small for standard gauge, but you could still use them for walkways and things like that. So they come in 2 sizes. It's this flexible foam material. It's really nice, super easy to cut with an X-Acto knife, really nice to cut through. Doesn't take a lot. And you can also cut it with a scissors. And it has this cool sort of texture on it, which kind of looks like a road. So I've used it on my O gauge layout, and I'm using it up here too. It's very simple, easy to use, and then you can tack it down on the back of it with either, you know, a dab of hot glue, or you can do a little spray glue or whatever you want to hold it down, but pretty much you cut it the shape you want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut it so that, you know, wherever I want a road, I'm going to, you know, just shape it, cut it where I want it. I'm going to bring it right up to the felt road bed here. I'm not going to go over the track, you know, because again, I don't want to make it too realistic. It's supposed to be a toy layout, right? So we're just going right up to the foam, the felt track bed, the ballast, right? And that's it. So on the Lionel factory here, we're just going to have a road coming in here. We'll probably just place a vehicle here or something, a couple people, and that's pretty much it, right? This will be a simple one. And then in the middle here, we'll put another piece, and then on the other side, we'll continue the road. So throughout the whole layout, the road will be totally connected from end to end in some way, but that's what we're going to use for the roads. Really simple. The other thing we're going to use is we're going to use foam board for the sidewalks. So anything that needs a white sidewalk, we're just going to use regular foam board. This is a 3/16 inch thick. These are 20 by 30s. So nice big piece of foam board. Again, you can cut them easily with a hobby knife, so nothing spectacular there. And we're going to use that any place we want to put sidewalks. And that's all we're going to do. We're not going any further than that so that we can stick with the look that we're after. And then, again, we'll just tack it down with either a hot glue or a little spray glue on the back. Doesn't have to be anything crazy because it's not moving around or doing anything, right? You're just tacking it in place, and that's all we're really going to do. So really, my next steps are just to get everything sort of laid out and create some streets and sidewalks and some small scenes. And then, you know, we're ready to, you know, put people in. I've got these cool plastic trees I found that are not realistic trees. They're more toy-like trees, which will work perfectly. And that's pretty much it. The longest part of this is going to be hooking up all the lighting because I have to run wires for the lighting. So on this section right here that I've already done here for the factory, the window's open right now, you can't really see it, but if I turn it on you can kind of see I've got the lights in the back here. I've got the two goosenecks. The building is lit, so when the lights are down this looks really great at night, and that's kind of like the way we'll do it. So what we did on this is instead of wiring 1, 2, 3, 4 lights separately with individual wires going over to the distribution blocks, we took all 4 of these and we connected them together just right under where they are, and we ran 1 wire over to the distribution block, and then we labeled it factory street lights. So if any one of these goes out and has a problem, you know, with the wiring, I know which wire it is that goes over to the distribution block, and then I can figure out what's going on from there. But there's no reason to waste a whole bunch of wire, since wire is kind of expensive, and when you can keep things grouped together in that way, it's very easy to diagnose something. So now I wouldn't put them on this, put the street lights that were on the over here on the other side of the layout in with these, because then it's hard to tell which is which, right? So if they're in groups like this around a particular building, then they'll all be sort of wired together underneath directly where they are, and then a single pair of feeders goes over to the distribution block. And that's kind of how I'm working it. So let me show you that connector. So I'm using these push connectors, these are fantastic. They're very quick and easy, and they work with solid core wire, which is of course what this is. It's just bell wire, right? 18 gauge bell wire, and you just push them in the slots, right? And then it immediately grabs them, and you don't have to do anything. No twisting, soldering, nothing, right? And they're super tight connections, so you never have to worry about them coming apart. If you yank super hard on them, you can get a wire out if you needed to, but it's not necessary to, you know, usually you can just stick another wire in if you had to cut one, and then you can stick, actually, because it's 18 gauge, you can stick 2 in one slot, and it works great. So I joined all of these 4 lights here in these 2 blocks, and then you can see I just have 1 feeder right here going over to the distribution block, and then I labeled it once I got over there. So that's what I'm doing for all the lighting wiring. All right guys, so we're gonna try to get this power station installed. I was trying to get it wired up, and this is a modern version of the power station, which is just like the old version, but it also has an extra feature, which is operating smokestacks, which go right here. And these 2 little contacts you see is what powers the smokestack smoke units. The problem is the way they designed this is they didn't put a switch for the smokestacks. Pretty much when you give power to the power station to light it up, you get power to the smoke units and they start going. And of course you don't have smoke fluid in there, they'll burn out. And also maybe you don't want them smoking all the time, especially at night, if you have the lights down, right? Because you can't even see the smoke. So it's kind of foolish. Their big answer to turning it on and off in the instructions is to put a piece of tape over the contacts, which is, I don't know, can I say stupid? Because that is just dumb, right? That's lazy. They could have easily put a switch in here. So unfortunately, we are going to have to spend a little time modifying this. You can see right here, there are 2 wires. There's a black and a red right here. These are the 2 wires that feed the contacts here. So we're going to have to interrupt one of those wires and put a switch in there so that we can turn the smoke unit on and off when we want to and not have it always on. If we didn't do that, we'd probably have to put the tape over and keep it off always, because, you know, otherwise it's going to burn out every time it runs. Plus, I don't necessarily want the room filling up with smoke when that's running every time the lights are powered on. So we've got to take the bottom of this off, and hopefully we'll be able to access these wires that come up to this unit, and then we'll run 2 wires out the bottom, and then I don't know where we'll put a little switch to turn it on and off, but we'll do that. So We gotta take a little detour and get this finished. Lucky the wires are right here on the bottom exposed, that I can clip one of these, the red one, the hot here, and then just bypass it with 2 wires coming down. So that'll be easy, and then we'll just drill a hole in the bottom of the platform to run those 2 down, and then we'll have a switch to turn on and off the smoke unit. So not too bad. So I'm gonna get this cut, soldered up, and then have 2 wires coming down, and we should be set to go. So I bypassed the hot wire here, and I've got the wire coming out here. I just ran it under the same clips. Comes under here, came through the same hole here. The other wires come through, and I'm bringing it out this little hole right here, which is underneath the steps. So this will be the extra on and off switch for the smoke unit, and that should solve our problem. Guys, so another little thing I did was I had this 128 Lionel Newsstand. This is one of the modern versions with the little can motor in it, and you can see it just has just as the classic Newsstand. It's just got some gray figures, not too much color or anything like that. But I decided to put this one piece up on the standard gauge layout. Now, this is technically a post-war piece, right, for O gauge, but my problem with this Newsstand is that the figures on this have always been just way out of scale. So I've had this underneath the bench in the basement for quite a while, just sitting there. I never put it on the O gauge layout because the figures are actually standard gauge size figures. They don't fit the O scale, and not sure why that is. It's probably because they were trying to fit that original vibrator mechanism inside there, and with all the gears and everything else, they probably had to blow it up so it would all fit. So that's probably why it's so big. But it just never fit on the L scale because the figures are so gigantic. They look like giants, right? So I decided this would be a good place to put it on the template layout. The problem is it looks very plasticky, right? And it doesn't fit as well. So I didn't want it to stand out too much, but so I made sort of a pseudo Lionel 128 Newsstand by taking it apart and then painting it in glossy colors. And I also painted the figures a little bit, gave them some color and things like that. I also made a little bit of an improvement to it with the guy, his arm here that goes up and down to make it go up higher. There's just a little lever inside there that flips on a little cam in his shoulder, and that's what makes the arm go up and down. And so I just... what I did is I just added some epoxy on the end of the little ball that's on the bottom of it that sticks out the base to make it a little higher, and I you know, then sanded it round and stuff like that. And all it did was extend the lever just a hair, enough to make the arm sort of go up and down higher. Because this is supposed to be a newsboy by selling papers, you know, extra type of thing. So anyway, so I'm going to make a little scene with this, and this is going to be one of the few accessories on the standard gauge layout that actually does something, because most of the standard gauge pieces, of course, do not. They're just static tin pieces. So we made it sort of like a pseudo. So we took a little liberty with this, and yes, it's not, you know, really fitting in the air, but I think it'll just fit in, and nobody will really notice it. But it'll give a little bit of action in the one little error I'm going to make for it. So let's take a look at it. All right, so here it is. So what I did is I basically painted the base here in a gloss cream color, and then I painted the roof in this sort of gloss, sort of blue aqua color that I had left over on some paint. And then on the shack itself, I painted it sort of like that glossy apple green. Now I did keep the decals, right, for the papers and the little things on the front, so I masked that off. But I got rid of the Lionel News stamping across the top here because it just didn't kind of look right at all as for like a tinplate building, really. So that's kind of what I did with it. And let me zoom in real quick here, but you can see on the figure here, I painted his pants like dark blue, put some black shoes on, and then light blue shirt, put some eyes and a mouth on him there. I did the same thing for the guy in the back. I gave him a white shirt and eyes and mouth and stuff like that on that one. But otherwise, you can see it's pretty much
a plain building, and then of course a little fire hydrant I did gloss red, and you got the gloss white on the dog with some spots, right? So I just gave it a little extra color, and you know, just to give it more of a glossy look on everything. It's a little hard to see in the camera, but in person it looks like you know, enameled finishes just like the rest of the template. So I think it'll fit in pretty good. But let me turn it on so you can see kind of how it runs. So you can see his arm is really waving that paper. He's trying to sell that paper, right? So it's much better than the way it was when I got it out of the box. And the other thing about it is that I don't know if you can see it here when his paper goes up, but one of the problems with it was that the arm was going too far down, like straight down, and it was hanging up the rod. Because if you take it apart and you see the inside of the figure, you can see there's a little rod and cam, and it's like a square on a square. So if it goes past a certain point, it sort of jams a little bit. So I made sure that the arm doesn't go too far down, and I'll show you how. So what I did is on the little newspaper that's that he holds on his hand there, if you notice, it's made of tin, and I just bent it up, sort of like he's squeezing a newspaper. But what it does is it basically then, oops, sorry about that, it basically hits his leg here, and it doesn't go past his leg at that point. And that way it doesn't jam anymore, and it keeps going, and then he keeps waving the paper. So pretty much that's all I did. It just took a little bit of sort of finessing with it so that I could get the action a little bit more. The shaft that runs down through his leg and comes out, there's a pin, and what it does is it rides up and down on a depressed portion of the bottom plate, right? They punched out a little hill that sort of goes up and down in the plate, and when the little rod goes up and over as he's turning, that's what pushes it up and down. So all I did was just gave it a little bit of extra meat on the end of the rod so that his arm starts at a higher place and then it waves a little more sort of faster and farther up and down. So I think it looks better because he's really selling those newspapers. He's really waving it around. And most of the ones I see, they don't move that much at all. So let me show you again real quick. So he's really waving that newspaper, which is awesome. It's like, buy my newspapers. Okay. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to place this in a little scene, and we're going to do some lighting around it and a little sidewalk up to it and stuff like that. And that's going to be it for it. So let me get this all in place, make this little scene, and then I'll show you what it finally looks like. And we'll put this on a switch so when we want to operate it, we can do it. So there will only be a couple things that actually move or operate on the layout, and this is just one of them. But I decided, since I had it under the layout downstairs and I was never going to use it on the O gauge, then why not use it here? So there's a little sort of pseudo standard gauge newsstand, a little scene right here. The street lamp will be lit. I don't have it wired up yet, but you get the idea. So, and there's my sort of improved wave that I did on the little figure. See, he's really waving his newspaper there, so. And that's pretty much it. So I added a couple extra figures. I added a little newsboy over here with an extra, and then a guy customer. So just some Barkley lead figures. Put a sidewalk in front out to the road and a little tree in the back, and that's pretty much it. That's my newsstand scene that I incorporated into the standard gauge layout. One of the few operating accessories that's on the layout. Alright, so let's start with a quick overview, sort of an overhead shot here of the layout from end to end. So there's our control panel area that we have over here. And then we'll go through all the individual scenes, but you can see this is the end. And then if we scroll over here, or pan over I should say, not scroll, you see the Hellgates in the back there. And then over here, it goes all the way to that end over there. And of course on the walls we have shelving for storage and things like that. But the layout is 16 feet long by 8.5 wide. And so that's pretty small for a standard gauge layout, but you know, just FYI, you can squeeze a lot in if you really try and you're creative. And just because you don't have a giant space doesn't mean you can't have standard gauge trains. So big trains in small spaces. So let's take a look at the individual close-up scenes. So first at the end here we have our control panel area right here. So I've got my switch controls. You've seen in the other videos for the different loops. I've got 3 loops. Got some switch controllers here. The Type Z right here, which is pretty much running half of the lighting and accessories, and also the upper loop if it's conventional. And then we have the Z4000 right here, right? And that's running on each handle the 2 lower loops conventionally. And that's pretty much it. The command stuff is all being run by bricks, which are underneath the shelving right here behind the stool, right down below there are all the bricks for each of the loops. So we've got a brick for each loop. And then we have a brick powering the TIU in auxiliary mode. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then of course we have the base 1L and the cab 1L that we're using for the 2 TMCC engines that we have. And that is also hooked up underneath there on the bottom. And then in the back here, let's check out this. On the back here we have this little panel. It's the number 440 control panel for the signal bridge, which we'll see in a second. So we have that, and then we've got the WIU right here for the Wi-Fi for the DCS system is also in the back here. So, and yeah, let's just take a quick look underneath here so you can kind of see it. But there's the TIU here. There's the base 1L right there. I have a GW 180 right here, which is powering sort of the other half of the accessories and lighting. And then all the bricks are down here. Easily accessible if one of the breakers pops, you just click it, so not hard to get to at all. So basically all the power is in this sort of tower here. And then we've got 2 switches. These are the 2 main switches that power everything. So when these are off, there's no power going to anything on the layout, which is nice because, you know, it's an easy way to shut everything down and make sure you didn't leave something on like a transformer or something like that. So, and then I've got a little tiny switch underneath here for the bell shack that you saw in my other video. So that gives me an option to turn that off even if it gets tripped by the IR sensor, so it's not ringing all the time. And then I have little switches right here that control 2 buildings that smoke, and then the newsstand. And then of course my 167 whistle controller, because when I'm running conventional on the Type Z, there is no direction or whistle buttons on this transformer, so I need something to change direction and also blow the whistle, and that's pretty much it. So very simple control panel, you know, considering, you know, what it looks like on the O gauge layout, much more compact and simple. Although I am using a ton of power. So just FYI, I counted up pretty much all the bulbs that are on the system, and there are 131 incandescent bulbs burning on this layout. Not to mention the couple of accessories, the 2 smoke units and the newsstand accessory. And if all this stuff is running, when I put an ammeter on it, it's drawing close to 20 amps. So I had to split all that between transformers because one transformer like the Type Z couldn't handle it. It was really working hard, and that's you know, the breaker started tripping on it, and I think there were 15 amps on the Type Z, so you know, that's a lot of amps it's pulling. So I had to split it out so that the Z is only doing about 8 amps. The GW, which is a 10 amp transformer, is doing about 8 or so, and then I'm doing 4 on the accessory output on the Z. So I kind of split them up to make it a little more even so that each one's not working so hard. Although the Z could do a lot more, but I just don't want to cook it. And also when I'm running my conventional ones, I'm using the 4th knob there to actually use that on the upper loop. So yeah, so that's the control area. So then let's move back to the first little scene we have right here, which is the Lionel Irvington factory. So this is an O gauge, really an O gauge scale factory, but it is all in tin plate, and it just fits in here really well. I put a couple of gooseneck street lamps in the front here. I just got a businessman waiting for a car right there. I'm gonna get, I think I saw in one of my local hobby shops a die-cast Lionel Trains, van truck, right? So I'm gonna grab that and just put it in the front here as if it's loading trains or whatever. But this is a really nice accessory. Lights up on the inside, has a detailed interior. It's got some, it's like I said, all metal. So really nice. And then I put 2 of the tall 14-inch double gooseneck street lamps behind it. So then we have a road coming out here, crosses the tracks. Again, we didn't put anything in between here. We didn't want to make it too detailed, so there's no like black roadway in between the tracks. So, and then of course over here comes across here, and of course our second little scene, I should say, is the ringing bell shack. So this is the shack that has a little bell inside that rings when the trains pass by. I just put a conductor out in the front there. I got 2 little goosenecks. And you notice I have these sort of trees here. These are really cool. So I wanted to get some trees to go around the layout, but I didn't want the stuff that we use for O gauge because they're too realistic looking. So these are toy trees, and that's perfect because it kind of fits the look of what sort of would have been. These are like, they're almost like rubber. The leaves are sort of like rubber, and the trunk it's a harder plastic, but it's flexible. But these come in 3 sizes. They're made by this company called Toyvian. I found them on Amazon. This is a 14-inch height tree, so that's perfect in size for the large ones. And then they have some smaller ones that you can use sort of as bushes and stuff like that on the standard gauge. But there's 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large, and I picked up a bunch of these, and I just put them around the layout. And they're perfect. They fit the look just perfect for what I'm after here. So, all right, and then we've got a little paya or paya. I forget how you pronounce it. It's P-A-Y-A. Those are those tin plate toys that they made from Spain, I think it is, and they fit very well also, just their size and everything, and they're really cool looking. They're all tin, and they come in all different kinds of cars and things like that. So here I got the guy being pulled over here. Guess he's speeding or something. But I just put a couple of the Barclay lead figures right around that one, and so that gives me that little scene right there. Here we have the Ives switch tower. Okay, we put a little gooseneck here, a little sidewalk around it. This is just like a gray foam, kind of like the roadbed, but it's just a gray foam that I just put around for a sidewalk. So, and then back here we've got that's a blinking railroad crossing sign that's always blinking. And then we've got the animated newsstand right here. So on the animated newsstand, I'll show you that in a second what I did there, but so you can see it running. But I basically have a double gooseneck here, and then a little scene around this newsstand with a sidewalk and things like that, and then more trees in the back there. Going down the layout, we've got the residential area. So I put this in the front of the layout because it's the sort of the shortest buildings, right, as far as the height goes. And so it fit really nice in this little area up here. So we managed to secure 5 of these buildings, which was a miracle because these things are incredibly hard to get. These are the buildings that Mike's Train House took, and they blew up. They took the regular ones, the original ones, and they just blew up the scale to make them fit better in standard gauge. normally the buildings are very tiny, and they don't even, the scale wise, they just don't even fit in standard gauge. But these were the bigger ones, super hard to find, and I got lucky on a couple different locations. I think, let's see, 2 of them were in Cabin Fever auctions, and one of them I got at York, the October meet, and one I got on eBay. So that was enough to get everything I needed. Now, the smaller ones, I actually bought a set of those, not realizing the scale of them because I was new to standard gauge. So I bought a bunch, 4-pack of the smaller ones that come in like the 4 different buildings. And I'm not going to use them anywhere on here. So I took one of those buildings and I actually changed it around a little bit. So I made a doghouse out of it. And all I did was I took it apart. This was a template one that was the, had like sort of the brick pattern lithographed on it with some vines growing on it and stuff like that. And it had a little porch on it. It basically is the same thing as this building right here with the porch and the chimney on it. I took it and I took the chimney off. You can see still the slots on the roof right there for it. And I took the porch off. And then I painted the body sort of the gloss cream color. And I painted the roof just a gloss, like blue tealish color, and then put it back together. And I just put some stick-on letters and just put Rover on the front of it. And this is another little dog from an old animated newsstand my friend Nick had given to me. It was the old post-war one with the vibrator motor, and I used parts off of that for other things on the layout. And this was one of those little things. I have a couple more I found online. The dogs in the Barkley lead figures are incredibly hard to find. I guess they didn't make very many of them, but I managed to find another one on eBay that's coming. So I'll have a bigger dog, a little bit bigger dog there also. So, and this one I haven't painted yet, but I'm not sure what color I'm going to paint it. Maybe brown, and put little paws on them and things like that. So, but anyway, that's a little doghouse that I made out of the normal ones that would have been made in the pre-war era. That's how small they were compared to these bigger ones. In the front here, I just used some foam board to create the sidewalks here, and I just sort of like, you know, scored them a little bit to put some lines in them. And I used a little concrete paint that I had left over from the O-gauge layout, so I just wrapped those around the buildings here, and that was pretty much it. I got a bunch of these lead figures here. So we got a mailman, there's a boy here with his sister flying a kite, and a couple of people waiting for something on the outside of their house here. Here's another one of those Paya vehicles. This one's my favorite out of, I think, all of them I have. Little tin vehicles, so great. And then over here I got another one, little race car one. And then I put some just goosenecks around the development here. So these are just single goosenecks that I had. And then I got the number 90 flag. This happens to be the one that has the cool base on it that has sort of the pseudo flowers going around it. Again, it's all tin and metal, so really nice, but I just put that right in the middle there, and it kind of works. And then the last video I just put out before this one was the hedges, right? So there's the hedges I put on it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, you know, that worked out really well. I really like this residential area here. All right next to the residential area, I got this little shack. This is a number 48 whistle shack. It's such a cool little piece. Now this was kind of in a little rough shape. The base was all, this was all rusted up. So I took it apart and I just repainted the base real quick. The lithograph portion was not too bad. It's got some scratches on it and stuff like that, but in general it was pretty good. So I just washed it up and everything. And then inside it has a motor with an air whistle on it. So it's a really cool piece, and I really like it. And the little button here actually, this little bakelite button actually still works, and it has all its lettering on it, so that's pretty cool. But you know, when people come by, they can just hit it to blow the whistle. So it's got that old grind of the AC motor and then the whistle. So I didn't have a good place to put it where people could reach to actually hit the button. So this was the best place I could find, which is like right behind this house. And then I just put a little street lamp next to it and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the whistle shack. Moving down the front of the layout here. Now I had this 440 signal bridge. I didn't know where to put it. I just didn't have a good spot for it at all, to be honest with you. Because I don't have dual tracks and everything where it can span and then actually be used like a normal signal bridge would. So, but it's such a beautiful piece with all the brass details on it and everything. I just had to squeeze it on somewhere. So I just put it right here. And the signals up at the top there, of course, go, you know, they light up straight up and down when it's a go, and they cross when it's a stop, right? And again, that's controlled by that 440 signal panel that I was showing you on the first part of the video here. And it has two little levers on that you use to switch the lights around. So this one can be hooked up so it can control trains too, but I didn't use it that way. I just hooked it up straight to the panel. I'm just manually controlling the lights on it. But so it's not really going to do much, but I just thought it was just a beautiful piece with the bright, you know, glossy red finish and the brass details. It just looks so good. It's like I had to have it on here somewhere. So that's where I squeezed it in. So, and then of course there's a couple of trees here. I put a sidewalk between the housing development and back here, which is where the diners is. We'll see in a second. And some more trees around there. And that's pretty much it. Now the front of the layout right here where these two tracks run, I left this open and I didn't put anything in between these tracks on purpose because this is a good sort of work staging area where I can, you know, put trains on to, you know, get them staged up as far as, you know, getting them into the DCS system, you know, getting their engine IDs put in and stuff. And then also, I can lay I have like sort of this work board, just like a piece of shelving that I can lay on top of here if I need to work on something, right, to make a flat surface and everything. And it's just a nice area that's open. That's not, you know, doesn't have stuff in between here that I can do work on. So I purposely left it that way. All right, and then we swing around here and we're gonna go back to the diner. So on the diner right here, it's just, again, we got a diner with a street coming up to it. And it's the, we have the MTH die-cast clock here. Now this is actually a real clock that actually works in here, or it's supposed to anyway. It worked for about 15 minutes and then it died. And I put a new battery in it, but it's stuck. It's like, if I tap it, then it'll start going again, and then the second hand will move forward, and then it'll start going backwards. Actually, it's really weird. I think it's all messed up on the inside for whatever reason, but it's probably a really cheap mechanism, but it would have been cool if it was working, but you know, mine's dead in the water there, so I'd have to get another mechanism if I want to actually have it work. But anyway, it fit there. I just put it right in front of the diner, so that was kind of cool. And the diner light, all these buildings light up, obviously. I've got a Wonder Bread truck that I found at my local hobby shop. It's a die-cast truck that was kind of big, so I figured that size looks pretty good. And then I have a couple of die-cast trucks over here. I think one is some confectioner's sugar, and one is J.C. Penney or something like that on the side. And then I've got a double-decker bus going down the street there. And I got a couple of figures out here in the front just waiting for their rides. So, and some double gooseneck lamps. These are maroon in the back here. So that's pretty cool. I have this little railroad crossing sign right here. This actually originally was the railroad crossing sign that had the bell on it. The bell mechanism it didn't work at all. And luckily it just had a screw with a nut on the back that held the whole mechanism on. So I just took it off because I noticed these are really just the telegraph poles with the railroad crossing. So I just took that off and chucked it because it was completely messed up and didn't work at all. And just left the lookout railroad crossing sign that I put right here. So that worked out, actually. I was still able to use it even though the other part was completely gone. And then over here on the end of the layout where I have this 45 corner, I just put in this other building, which is a powerhouse. Now remember, on this one I actually have a Sooth smoke unit that I installed right here. So this will smoke when you hit the switch over on the control panel, but this one lights up too. And I just put a couple of goosenecks around this one and a figure right here. And that's pretty much it for this little powerhouse scene we got here. On the end of the layout here, we've got we got a floodlight tower right here. Those big floodlight towers are really cool. And then of course we have that elevated platform that you saw in a previous video with all the figures sort of sitting right there. This is the back of the power station in the back here, but we do have a loading platform right here. So let me try to get a better picture of this. Here we've got a loading platform, and we've got a bunch of, we got the, I forget what number it is, but it's the loading platform carts where they have the carts on here. I got some luggage that I found. So you can see we've got some luggage on the cart right here. I've got some crates on the dolly right here, right? So it's got a couple of pieces on here which are really nice. This platform lights up too. So, and then we just put a couple of goosenecks around it. These again are those tall ones, like the 14-inch ones. And this is in the back here. It's really the only thing I could squeeze in this area right here. So, and then we have another floodlight back here, and then we got this other station that we had. I didn't have a good place to put this station at all, and so luckily it fit back here. You can't really see it, to be honest with you, but since I had it and I didn't have any other place to put it, I stuck it back here. But we'll see. Maybe I'll put it on eBay or something like that, since it's not really something you can actually see. But anyway. And then, of course, this is the entrance to the one Hellgate Bridge coming from this side. All right, and then in the back here, we've got the road that continues through underneath the elevated. It sort of curves around in front of the 840 power station, which is like one of the most iconic buildings, right, in standard gauge. It's a huge building. And I put two of the big gooseneck street lamps on both sides of it there to really set it off. It lights up, of course. Now this is the remake that has the smoke stacks that actually smoke. So that's one of the switches on the control panel. So that's kind of cool. You can see on this side right here, I put a little sidewalk between there and the entrance to the platform that goes up. And then there's some lighting around here. I've got these blinking railroad crossing lights. These are really cool because it has a red light in the base, and then it has the blinking light when they're on. So we'll show you this all lit up and everything like that. And then I've got some more of those pay tin vehicles. This one's a funny one. It's just a guy in a three-wheeler car. But they're so cool. And then that road sort of wraps around here and goes in front of the station. So this is another iconic piece right here. This is the illuminated platform and station, right? So another great piece, right? This has 6 lights going around it, around the outside of the sort of the fencing railing there. I put 2 of the big tall street lamps. These are number 67s, I believe, in front here. These silver ones with these special glow bulbs. And then, of course, this station is one of my favorites because it has the embossed, like, sort of brick. It's got the Lionel City sign that hangs down there. It's got 2 goosenecks hanging off the corners, and it's lit also. It's got train schedule boards and everything on it. It's one of my favorites out of the stations. And then you have all these Barkley figures I put in the station. We'll get some more, but that's what we have for now. It does have a flag on the one side, and on the other side it's got this little sort of flower pot, as you can see right there. So this is one of the coolest pieces too, but again, it's very big. It's a huge, gigantic piece. What's nice about them is you can put any station you want on it. I just picked that particular version, but you can also put the 115 station on there too, so really nice. And in the back between the hell gates, if you remember some of my earlier videos, I made that sort of crossover. And I still have the porcelain sign there. So it looks like a billboard in the back there, which is super cool. I got 4 bronze street lamps there, and then it crosses over, of course, to the other Hellgate bridge. So can never have too many Hellgate bridges in the standard gauge layout. And then the bottom here, this switch tower actually is sort of in front of the one portal. I put a tree in the other portal, and then the other one's open because there's not enough room there to put anything else in between there. But that's kind of what that area looks like there. And then over here, the road sort of comes across right from in front of the station, comes across right here. And then it goes back in front of these 2 buildings right here, which is a switch tower, of course, and then the classic 115 station, which I'm pretending is just like a bank or something, but I put a couple of sidewalks between the 2 buildings there. I got another one of those pay tin vehicles right here. Got some crossing signals, and then some goosenecks in the back here. These maroon ones are really, really beautiful. I love the glossy paint finishes on those, but they fit this one. This, of course, is the 115, has illuminated lights on the front and the inside. So that one is super neat. I love that one too. Oh, and then of course this is this was a TCA convention crane. Very few of these made. I think, I forget what it was, 30 something or whatever. They have the Sparrow Point, Maryland on the back of the crane labeled, and it's a special color combination just for the TCA convention. So it's a manual crane. You use the knobs in the back to move it up and down and side to side and everything. But what I did is I put some of those containers, the standard gauge containers, and hung one off of here. And then I have one on the ground, and then I have sort of a loading area. And this is actually a dump truck, a Paya dump truck, Paya dump truck. But the container actually fit if I put the dump back up. It sort of looks like the truck is hauling it, although it's fallen down in the back. It's kind of heavy, but so I mean, it may need to prop that up in the back a little bit so it doesn't look that way. But anyway, I use that as sort of a truck that could haul away these containers, right? So it looks like the crane is sort of loading the truck with containers, and I have a little access road there that goes right next to the crane. And then of course, I have the beautiful roundhouse. So another iconic standard gauge piece is the roundhouse. Now this is just one section of the roundhouse, right? Because I don't have room for any more, but I'm going to tell you that even if you can only fit one section of the roundhouse, it's worth it. It's such an impressive piece, and it looks like a full engine house, to be honest with you. You don't even need the other sections because the sides have the full doors and everything like that. So you don't even know that there's other sections that go with it. So if you don't have the space, again, big trains and small spaces, right? So if you don't have the space, you can definitely fit the roundhouse, get one section of it, because it is one of the classic iconic standard gauge pieces. So I have the siding that comes across here. There's a crossover right here, as you can see, comes off of a siding and goes into the roundhouse where I can store engines. So that I have a 400E orange and blue right there in the roundhouse right now. And inside the roundhouse, it is lit also. And then I have a bumper, a lighted bumper, standard gauge bumper on the end of it. So you kind of see that from the back. You'll see that when we light it up and you get to see everything. And I threw some trees, and then I have a Ives water tower right here. And then there's a semaphore right here. So you can see that one. So this will go up and down automatically based on the sensor that I have, which is right about, let's see if we pull that out. It's sort of right near the newsstand right there. So as trains are approaching, the semaphore will automatically change. Okay, and then let's swing around the other side here. We come on the other end here, we'll have the number 1045 Gateman. This again was an O gauge piece, but the figure is so gigantic, it doesn't fit O gauge at all. It fits standard gauge. This figure is actually the perfect size for standard gauge. I gave him a little repaint job. This was all old and rusty, so repainted the base, and then they gave the guy some new glossy colors on him right here. And he is triggered again by one of those sensors that I talked about in my previous video, right about back here or so. So you'll see his flag go up when trains are passing there. Got another one of those blinking railroad crossing signs here, and then this is the now this was the fire station that Mike made under his Mike's Toy House nameplate, right? So I'll show you how this works, but it's a wind up. It has a ringing bell, and it's got a fire pumper inside of it with some guys and stuff like that. And then I put flagpole. Got to have a flagpole next to your fire station, right? And another double gooseneck. And then there's a floodlight back here. And of course, this is the other end of the Hellgate bridges on this side right here. Got some trees. There's a road that comes down here, obviously, that meets up with the firehouse here. There's Spotty, right? The Lionel Jack Russell. So gotta have him on the layout somewhere. So he's overlooking the trains, checking everything out, making sure everything's good. No, I'm goofy, I know. And then here's the back of the roundhouse. So this is neat when it's lit up, and I'm gonna try to find some railroad figures. That's the one thing I don't have yet. So I'm gonna try to find some Barclay. When I say railroad figures, I'm talking guys that work on the locomotives and in the yard, not the conductors and things like that. Those are easy to find. So I just want to find a couple of railroad figures and load that up inside here. Or maybe something else I can find that would fit inside a roundhouse. But you can kind of see the lighted bumper that's in there. So that lights up too when it's all lit up on the inside. And yeah, so I think that is all the major scenes, right? Of course, you guys have seen my video of the elevated loop and how I constructed that. We've got the shelves right here. I don't have the lights on right now, but we've got the built-in shelves on the end here. Here's my access point to get underneath the layout, which now is stuffed with boxes, actually. I had my dining room was filled with boxes practically up to the ceiling until a couple days ago. I finally got my dining room back after all this time, since I started this back in October, whenever it was. So, and then of course I've got this little stool right here. Kind of fits nicely in the little nook right here on the end, so that works out well. Cabinetry, of course, and then on the front here, same thing. We've got all kinds of storage. This is all lighted up too. It's not turned on right now, but these are all lit up. And then on the room here, we've got a couple things going on. So up on the mantle here, I do have the one set of trolleys. I've got the line-up or runabout. That's a really cool little tin plate boat. Really neat piece. It actually operates. If you actually did put it in the water, I'd be terrified to put it in the water, but it actually is supposed to operate if you actually wind it up and put it in the water, so kind of funny. And then I actually have an original catalog back here inside a little protective sleeve. And then just use some double-sided command strips to put a train sign here right below the mantle. Of course, I've got the mirror here for the line electric trains. And then on this side of the wall over here, I've got some cool artwork. So this is a Angela Thomas, right? Trotta Thomas canvas. Really nice. Of course, it's Madison hardware. So just a really cool piece right there. This is the one Lionel Trains actually made, another canvas print. And then over here, I've got some American Flyer signs. Got to have American Flyer, right? And then this is one of my favorite ones too. 1939 Hiawatha advertisement for the Milwaukee Road. And then we got some shelving up the top here where we have our presidential set up here. We got our circus train up here. And then over here, we got some more cars over here. We got the pay-as-you-enter trolley, some more rolling stock, and American Flyer stuff. So, and then on this wall, we've got, again, some more, this is another Lionel canvas print over here. American Flyer service station, Lionel Train service station, and of course our Ives, right? And then one piece that doesn't really fit the era at all, but I had an extra one. I had two of them, so I already have one downstairs. Is the Lionel? That's an actual Lionel dealer clock. Really nice condition. So I figured, I'll throw it up here. Why not? The way the fire station works is it has this little crank on the top where you just wind it up, basically, and then on the side right here it has a little sort of. Let me see if I can get over here. This little call box, right? Fire box, right? That you open up and it has a little lever that you pull down. So what happens is when you pull it down, this is what it does. And the doors just kind of pop open, right? And that's really all it does. But it's supposed to then, obviously, the fire engine would come out, right? And it's got this really cool old pumper fire engine that Mike made with it. And you can turn the wheels on it on the front here to make it go. But this one also actually winds up. And then it has a bell that rings as it's going. So as it's moving and going around in a circle or wherever it's going ding, 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 ding. So this is another sort of cool piece that Mike made under his Mike's Toy House edition. So yeah, and these just click closed, and then, you know, that's kind of the way it works. So that is the Mike's Toy House fire station. So let's take a look at it sort of lit up at night. We've still got some light coming in the room here, so but you kind of get the picture, right? So the hell gates are all lit up here. They've got lights on the ends and then all the lighting in between there, so that's kind of nice. The buildings are all lit up. Of course, tons of street lamps everywhere. The roundhouse is nice because when it lights up, you can see on the inside of it. So again, if I put some figures in there and everything, that'll be really, really cool on those. But yeah, it's everything. Of course, you have that blue hue underneath the elevated section from those LEDs I have in there. Now you can change that to any color you want to. So if the blue doesn't, you know, if you don't like blue, you can make it white or yellow or all kinds of different colors underneath there. And they're changeable on the fly with the app, so that's easy to do. Here's the diner section right here. Again, some more lights around the roundhouse. Even the crane has a red light inside of it that's lit up. So pretty much everything lights up, really, if you think about it. This is the residential area. And again, no LEDs on this. Everything on this thing is incandescent bulbs. And I'm running about 12 volts, so even at 12 volts, they give there's a nice brightness to them and everything. So you don't really need to run them too high. That way they'll last a lot longer. There's that illuminated terrace. That thing is so cool when it's all lit up with all the lights going around the railings there. And then the power station always looks cool too when the whole building is lit up. These are a little bright in the camera for some reason, but you can actually, in person, where this sign right here, you can actually see where it says railroad crossing right here. I think when it's too far away, it looks really bright. And these, you know what, I could have put in sensors and everything, but you know what, I like that they're just always blinking all the time. It's sort of just a warning, hey, there's a railroad crossing here. and there's always blinking, so I don't have to like do anything special with it. And that's okay for the standard gauge layout. I think that's kind of cool. There's those blinking ones. These are really cool. They have actually a red bulb underneath the base too that lights up, which is that's sort of neat. In addition to the ones at the top right here. Sorry, we got light coming in the window here. It's the middle of the day. I tried to close the blinds, but you can only get so much out of it. And then the Irvington factory right here. There's actually details inside of it that you can see if you look closely. Yeah, and that's pretty much it of kind of how it looks at night.
Hey guys, well that's going to be it for my overview of my standard gauge layout. I think it turned out pretty well, right? Really happy with it. I hope you enjoyed coming on the journey with me during this whole build. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, put your comments down below. Let me know what you think of sort of my final result here of this layout. As always, like I said, we'll have 2 more videos to close out this series. We have to do one little adjustment, and then we'll have the final running session. We'll have all kinds of trains running on the layout, so you get to sort of see how they are in action. And yeah, and that'll be it then. We'll close out the build series. Like I said, we'll still have some other standard gauge videos. They just won't be on the actual build of the layout anymore. So yeah, so that's it. So make sure that you subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell to get notifications. Hit that like button. And as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace, guys.